So, good morning to one not present here. It is important to realize that brand is much more than a logo and slogan. A brand is who your company is, how you function and make decisions. Very welcome to Srikanth, my classmate, and to the esteemed guest, Mrs. Kavitha Iyer Rodrigues. We students of Christ deemed to be university have are privileged to have such an esteemed guest amongst us. Mrs. Kavitha Iyer Rodrigues is the co-founder and CEO of Zumutor Biologics, and also a very good friend of mine. So thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule and giving us this opportunity. So without much delay, we'll be going forward with the interview. So I'll hand it over to Srikanth, my classmate. He'll be starting with the interview. So thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you.
Morning, ma'am. It's nice to have you here. So let's start off with the questions right away. Was it always your dream to become an entrepreneur, or is it something that caught your eye eventually as you grow up in your childhood days?
So I think to begin with, thank you for having me. It's beautiful to share some part of the journey, especially to youngsters who possibly will mold their lives differently than what we went through. To tell you the truth, I come from the usual middle class kind of family, which always believed in education, and education kind of gets you places, etc. So a typical salaried mindset is what I've always come from, and that been the background. I worked in Biocon, which is a large biopharmaceutical company, for a long time. I worked for close to 6 years there in Biocon before I kind of ventured out into doing my own things. But I think the key essence there is it's not that I dreamt that I would be an entrepreneur, but eventually it came about with the kind of work that I was doing, that entrepreneurship is possibly something that we could try out. And I'm really thankful for all the experience that I've had in my past, which kind of eventually, got me to starting my own gig, which was very helpful. So that was the kind of journey that I
had. It's easily evident that you enjoy being an entrepreneur. The way you speak only, ma'am, we can find out. Okay, so the second question is that did you face any downfalls or initial failures during your startup, and how did you cope up with it? Like you might have some success strategies towards achieving your company goals. So can you tell us something about that, ma'am?
Sure. So I think typically with most startups, right? It, especially in a technology space, unlike kind of the digital spaces, these are more capital intensive. It requires more monies, etc. So I think the first hurdle that we had to overcome, apart from coming from a science background, having a team, having a proper thesis, so to speak, to present, was money. And money was something that at that time, back in my first startup in 2007, was very hard to get, because the VCs, private equity, kind of venture capitalists, were only setting up base in India. There was no VC money to access. There was only the big biopharma industry, which would either look at outsourcing certain projects, but they would not fund a company. So those, I would want to say, were the initial hurdles. And I think we kind of learned as we went, because we realized not only does it require money, not only does it require a great team, it also requires a scientific idea to be presented at the right time to the right audience. So you cannot kind of spill the same idea to multiple people and expect that they would understand it. So those were learnings, and I think those were very important learnings, which kind of made us do a better job in the second startup that we did. So those were the pitfalls. Yeah.
Can you give us some insights about your success strategies, ma'am? Like to achieve the specific goals in the company?
I don't know if they were well, they were strategies, and finally they were successful. Let's put it that way. I think some of them were in the first startup. What we did was we did a co-development licensing model, because at that time the need of the hour was that big biopharma was not building out teams, internally to them. So we could be the licensing partner to them, and that's really what we did between 2007 and 2010. And 2010, which we believe was a strategy which became successful eventually, was that we strategically tied up with a bigger biopharma called Strides, our collabs, and they bought us out ultimately. So I think that strategy was a good one because we had built out a huge pipeline. We were 28 people. Had a good lab. We were in an industry setup. We were approved. We had multiple molecules that we could prove that were in clinic, etc. So when we had those things lined up, and then we pitched to a bigger, pharma partner, they, kind of came forward and invested into 70% of our company and finally bought out the entire pipeline in the end of 2012. So I believe that was an example of a strategy that ultimately, went down to success. But whereas in this company, Zumutor, that I'm talking about right now, the strategies that we have evolved for success, which we thought would be successful, and some of it is that we decided to go completely novel, that we will go only into the novel pipeline. Everything will be new. Everything will be ground up. All our patents, 43 patents filed so far, is what the company holds. So we're a novel company doing everything that is not in the generic space. So that's a strategy of its own. And that hopefully has gotten us limelight and multiple rounds of funding.
Yes, ma'am. That's nice. Can you let us know about the mission and the vision of your company, as well as any principles or ethics followed in your company, specifically the employees, etc., like that?
Sure. Well, the vision of this company is that, we want to be the best biotherapeutic company that the world has seen in the NK space. And our mission is to ensure all efforts, both quality and scientific, are in alignment with, how this goes forward. So the culture of the company for a startup, as most startups people would believe, is obviously, quite cool, quite flexible, etc. But I think the ethics to it is that we have absolutely uncompromisable discipline, which is one of the important tenets of, kind of building out such a company. The other thing is there is absolutely no data that will go out of this company that is not verified. So which means validated and verified data that goes out of the company. And third, the partners whom we kind of, emerge with or kind of collude with are partners who have very high ethical standards. So we only work with them. So this has ensured that it has kind of pitched us in a space that is above the rest, and that holds us in good stead.
Just like you said, discipline plays a key important. It might be a strength to your company as well. So can you share some strength and other strength and weaknesses of the company as well?
Sure. I think the strength of the company, like you already mentioned, one, of course, is discipline. The other is, I think, over the 7 years of Zumutor that we have built out, we have seen flexibility and innovation that is very important in our game. And flexibility, when I mean it's agility, which means at any given point of time, a company like ours with 36 people, platforms, we have a large 18,000 square feet lab space, etc., can pivot into being any other different kind of company. So today we're a product company. Tomorrow, if the need be, we can become a platform company because we have the platform stacked up for products. So we can verticalize it, saying these platforms will therefore be hived off to different companies, the products will be licensed out, etc. So that agility, I think, is one of our agility, flexibility, discipline is one, are a couple of strengths of the company. I think some of the weaknesses that we have is we are a US company which has a wholly owned subsidiary in India. So today, I do not have a full-time employee in the US because I used to go into the US and come back very often, and I used to manage the show like that. But right now, I don't have that setup because these are very important. These are very expensive resources to have, right? So I don't have that. So that becomes a weakness because I don't have a US exposure for the company right now. So those are the way the company is constructed. Sometimes can work very differently.
Thank you, ma'am. So this will be my last questions. Actually, I had done some research about your novel immunotherapies, which you guys are actually developing. So there has been so many. It has been evolving so much, and there have been so many changes for developing these immunotherapies. So what are the various difficulties and changes which you had to put in your product line so that you can come up with very good novel immunotherapies to treat the various tumors and cancers, etc.?
So one of the first things that we did was we developed our platforms, which are all proprietary platforms. They're IP, we have global patents filed, etc. So the platforms become like for us the tool, it's like the golden goose that keeps on laying eggs, right? So that becomes the golden goose for everything. The platform is the genesis for our product. So we own the platforms. That's one part of it. typically companies would look to license molecules, etc. So we keep making incremental changes to our platforms, which ensure that the product is therefore that much more, at an elevated level compared to other products in the space. So that's one angle. Second angle that we take, especially in an oncology space, is to look at multiple indications. Today, we're looking at solid tumors. Tomorrow, which we have data now, we could go across and look for multiple other tumor types like myelomas, lymphomas, etc. So that is also keeping us differentiated in the market space. And the third one, of course, is all our global biopharmaceutical strategic tie-ups that we do, right? That keeps us differentiated. Like, for example, I'm talking to Sanofi and J&J. If I license the product to them, they will ensure that they layer the product with more technology that will stand out against their competitors. So that's, again, a competitor strategy.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Now Ashlin will
Sure.
continue with his set of questions.
Okay.
Yes. Hi, ma'am. So what are the contributions as a Zumutor as a company has done for the society, if you can say that?
Sure. So I think we have not yet gone out to the societal role by means of a direct contribution, I want to say, because we are a B2B company. We are not a B2C. That's one important thing. The other thing, which I believe is going to be a very important contribution to society, is finally the product or the drug that we're working on, which is in prostate cancer. If that finally comes to market in, let's say, 5 to 6 years, that would probably change the game of how we look at therapeutically, looking at solving prostate cancer as an example, right? Because prostate cancer for men above 50 is singularly the cause of, metastasis and death globally. But then it's understated. There are not many therapeutics in this space. So we will probably be what is called the first-in-class antibody in this space. So when that comes up, hopefully that will make a difference.
That's great, ma'am. To know that a treatment for cancer coming up is actually one of the greatest knowledge that you can ever give, gift that you can give to the mankind society. So when I talk about this, about the awards that your company has received, it's only been 7 years, but the name and the recognition that your company has got is immense, globally also. So if you could share about the awards that you've received, it would be very nice.
Sure. So I think some of the kind of attention seeking publicity space that we have figured in is probably me as an individual and company as a whole, actually, because for me, I would consider the company, because I don't individually have limelight apart from the company. So to that extent, these two are very closely linked. I think I was featured in the 40 under 40 in Forbes 2 times over, and then the Ernst & Young, innovation awards that were there in India. And then, of course, Women Entrepreneur Platform, that is Women Transforming India in 2018, was something that the government ran. So those were kind of, I want to say, multiple opportunities for showcasing the company that I got as an individual and for the company. So those were the couple of them. So I would want to say 2 or 3 of the 40 under 40s in Forbes, and then the WEP award and the Ernst & Young award 2 times over. So those are the ones that the company's got. And that has helped us actually, because these things are important when you have to talk to other, kind of VCs and companies.
So as you said about, the Women Transforming India 2018, which you received from the Vice President of this country. I mean, it was definitely an great honor for you as personally, and even for your own company, that the CEO and the co-founder has received such an award. If you could share your experience while receiving that award, like from the company, like how happy your company was and how happy your family was, when they got to know about this honor that you've received.
Yeah. So I think one, it's phenomenal, when you get recognized at the government or the country level. That's an immense sense of pride, actually, more than all of these other awards that come by, right? Which is all quite glitzy. I think when it comes from the government or from the India level, there is a deep sense of pride, and that was reflected across, family, company, etc. And the occasion per se, which was in Delhi, which had numerous women, we were close to 30 women, kind of receiving these awards across different, domains, portals, etc. was just amazing. And to kind of go through the innards of the government structure and from security to being seated, to kind of receiving the award, to multiple speakers within Niti Aayog, was extremely inspiring. I especially look up to Dr. Amitabh Kant in Niti Aayog, who's one of the phenomenal key players in strategy within the country. So yeah, so that was amazing.
No, it's actually very proud to know that such a young person to be it's a big award, and it's definitely Zumutor and your family will be proud. Even people all over India, people will be proud of you. So if you talk about, you told about Zumutor finding medicines for cancer or for for tumor, and when you guys find it out, you guys will be one of the only companies which will be having such a medicine. So is there right now, do you have any tight competition in the market, and how if you have, how does your company cope up with these competitions?
So I think with regard to competition, or with regard to kind of outward sense of how we do things, yes, there is competition. That's what really keeps us going, moving faster, getting better. Our competition is global. We are probably the only people doing the kind of immuno-oncology work in India that we do right now. There is no other company in India doing it, which is great. But at the global scale, I want to say we are one within 20 people doing this work. There are a couple of other NK companies going after multiple targets, but we have chosen prostate cancer as our target. Having said that, I think the kind of incremental advances that people have seen in immuno-oncology across these companies are amazing. So one of the important things we kind of did to at least keep abreast with competition, or to keep ahead of competition, was to have a really good scientific advisory board. So today our scientific advisory board is across Harvard, MIT, Dana-Farber, the key leading oncology institutions, including HCG in Bangalore. So that has made a huge difference to how we would look at handling competition.
I mean, this is wonderful to know that your team is worldwide. You have people everywhere to support you guys and to help you guys. So Zumutor started 7 years back, 2013. And in this 7 years span, you guys have reached a lot of heights and a lot of recognition, awards and name with this global team. So how can you define success according to you personally?
So that's a tough question. But having said that, I think success to me is when hopefully in 2 years, not only does our product get licensed, but it goes across a very important milestone that we have, which is called phase 1 clinical studies, which means first in human clinical studies. That means you inject this product into human or a patient, so to speak, and you see tumor regression. I think that would be success for us, right? Because we have worked 7 years across the platform and the product, and that product finally kind of seeing light of day in a patient. I think that is success.
We definitely pray that your team and all of you will reach the success very soon. And ma'am, who has been your inspiration and guide during this journey of entrepreneurship and this journey of yours? Who has been your inspiration?
Yeah, so I think I would separate people who inspire me, who mentor me, and who guide me into 3 different buckets. And there are multiple people who have done that. I think the people who have really inspired me to be, to reach for the skies has been people like Kiran Majumdar-Shaw at Biocon, who does a phenomenal job. And I'm very fortunate to have even worked with her over the years that I did in Biocon. People who have mentored me are people like my mom. Who has been a guiding force to multiple things that I've done. She is a professional herself. She's a chartered accountant, and I think the way she has led or taught me as to how to kind of ethically lead practices within a company is amazing. And ultimately, it finally goes back to meaning and purpose, and that's what my family brings in. So I think my family is what keeps me going.
Yeah. It's great to know. You're a proud daughter for your parents, and also I think you're a proud daughter for this entire country, ma'am. So if I have to say, what is your future goals? I mean, other than your finding a medicine for cancer and for tumor, that's like your priority right now. So is that the only future goal you're concentrating right now, or is it something else also?
So for me, I can say that I probably have the energies for one more startup after this one. So hopefully that would be my kind of goal to focus on. Let's see. I am working on it, but ultimately you have to draw one to a close before you kind of launch onto another in a lot of ways. So I'm trying to kind of do that. But as you already know, I do have my hands full with a lot of fitness aspirations. So hopefully I can get going with that. My goal is to kind of at least next year, because this year is preventing me from running, hopefully do the 6 world marathons that I wanted to do, which maybe in 2022 I can do it. Yeah.
I mean, the love for fitness and the love for your company is totally immense. I mean, it's wonderful to know this. So this will be like my last question for this interview overall. A piece of advice that you would like to share with us students or to the budding entrepreneurs in this country.
Sure. I think I'd like to borrow that line from my favorite organizational psychologist, Adam Grant, who says, passion is overrated, but hard work is not. So I think it's very important for, students to get it, that it's pretty cool to say that you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to do a startup, but there are so many multiple layers before that. And one is discipline, the other is hard work, and the third is, to not think you can shortcut things to get to a goal. A lot of students think that getting degrees is a waste of time. If you can YouTube your skills, why can't you just shortcut your way into like coding and therefore into kind of fame and success? I don't think that's the way I would look at it. I think kind of putting your nose down to it, getting those degrees, whatever it may be, in whichever space, and then saying, hey, I'm ready, or I'm nurturing an idea. I think that's important. So that's what I would say is kind of my piece of advice.
This is a very great advice, I can say. I mean, like as you said, there are a lot of youngsters like us who think that an entrepreneur is something that you can easily become, but it's not. It's even more harder than any other thing. And once you achieve that, your success is immense, and you and your company have achieved that. And I hope, we pray that your company future, you guys in the future will be able to achieve more and more goals and become very famous company in the entire globally. So I would like to hand over to Srikanth for concluding this meeting.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for spending a valuable time. Since you said about family support and the money required for startups, I hope the youngsters will be viewing this and they get to know actually what it actually takes to become an entrepreneur. It'll open their eye. So we really thank you a lot for spending a valuable time for this interview, ma'am. Have a good day.
Sure. Thank you, and wishing you good luck. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am.